Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello and good day. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am Angga Saputra from Nautika 7 Bravo class. My NET 17.41.009. In this video, I would like to describe about personal protective equipment to complete my English Maritime mid-semester test. Personal protective equipment. The use of personal protective equipment on board ship. Personal protective equipment is a common name for respiratory protections, eye protections, gloves, special working clothes, example protective clothing, thermal suits, and waterproof clothes. A protector, different forms of safety shoes or rubber boots, and protection footwear, safety helmets, protections against falls, and others. You must use personal protective equipment in order to protect yourself from a risk that might threaten your safety or health when working. In this video, you might see about what personal protective equipment is, when to use it, how to use it, what demands to make on it, and whose responsibility it is to make it available to you. This video doesn't in detail go through all the different forms of protective equipment that exist. This video only tells about the requirements that apply generally to the use of personal protective equipment. It is important to know these requirements and be attentive to them. The use of personal protective equipment apply to all types of vessels. When do you use the personal protective equipment? It is important to point out that the use of personal protective equipment is your last way out when solving problems with the working environment. If the work on board cannot at all stack by performed and organized so as to ensure safe and healthy working conditions, it shall be ensured that the work can only be performed if personal protective equipment is used. Consequently, you have to solve the problem in other ways. Example, by establishing local exhaustion when working with harmful substances and materials on permanent workplace, and taking technical steps to reduce the noise. Only if this is not possible, personal protective equipment must be used to protect against a possible risk at work. A risk assessment of the workplace helps finding the risk. A risk assessment of the work must always be carried out in order to ascertain if your safety or health is at stake, and how the risk may be removed in the best possible way. The risk assessment of the workplace must be in writing. If the working process is considered as particularly dangerous or unhealthy, the owner or the master or skipper must carry out the risk assessment of the workplace together with the employees. If the ship has a safety organization, it shall participate in the work of assessing the risk of the workplace. Your duties and those of the owner. The owner must place at your disposal the personal protective equipment and see to it that you are instructed in the proper use of it. The owner must pay the expenses in connection with the purchase, maintenance, and cleaning. It is your duty to use the personal protective equipment you have received from the moment you start working and for as long as you work. At the same time, you must assist in making the equipment work according to the purpose. If you find defects, you must report it to your supervisor, the master or skipper, or the owner. Design, maintenance, storage, and sign. Personal protective equipment must of course, protect you against unwanted exposures. Furthermore, it must be designed to fit you and the work you are performing. To fulfill this requirement, it is necessary that you know the work and know what you are protecting yourself against. And you must know the limitation of the protective equipment. Maintenance, storage, cleaning, and testing must be according to the specification of the manufacturer. Sign must be placed where it is necessary to use personal protective equipment on board the ship, telling you what kind and possible what type and protective equipment to use. Time limitation at use. The use of personal protective equipment might involve physical or mental strain or inconvenience when used during a long period. Therefore, your work must be planned in such a way that this is taken into the consideration. This is particularly true when applying respiratory protection. Filtering device must not be used more than 3 hours in a workday. If the work lasts more than 3 hours, a power assist filtering device or a breathing apparatus must be used already before starting to work. Power assist filtering device and breathing apparatus must not be used for more than 6 hours in a workday. If the work is particularly demanding, breaks must be taken. The breaks must have a length and a frequency that take into consideration your workload and your inconvenience. Basic Personal Protective Equipment or PPE. Safety of self and co-worker is the prime priority kept in mind by a professional seafarer while working on board ship. All shipping companies ensure that their crew follow personal safety procedures and rules for all the operation carried on board ship. To achieve utmost safety on board ship, the basic step is to make sure that everybody wears their personal protective equipment made for different type of job carried out on ship. Following are the basic personal protective equipment or PPE that are always present on board a ship to ensure safety of the working crew. 1. Protective clothing. Protective clothing is a coverall which is protect the crew member from hazardous substances like hot oil, water, welding spark, and others. It is popularly known as a danger or boiler suit. 2. Helmet. The most important part of the human body is the head. It needs utmost protection, which is provided by a hard plastic helmet on the ship. A chin strap is also provided with the helmet, which keeps the helmet on place when there is a trip or fall. 3. Safety shoes. Maximum of the internal space of the ship is utilized by cargo and machinery, which is made of hard metal and which makes it clumsy for crew to walk around. Safety shoes ensure that nothing happens to the crew member feet while working or walking on board. 4. Safety hand glove. Different types of hand gloves are provided on board ship. All these are used in operation. Wearing it becomes imperative to protect one hand. Some of the gloves provided are heat-resistant gloves to work on hot surface, cotton glove for normal operation, welding glove, and chemical glove. 5. Goggles. Eyes are the more sensitive part of the human body, and in daily operation on ship, chances are very high for having an eye injury. Protective glass or goggles are used for eye protection, while welding goggles are used for welding operations, which protect the eye from high-intensity spark. 6. Earmuff or plug. Engine room of the ship produce 110 until 120 decibel of sound, which is very high for human ears. Even few minutes of exposure can lead to headache, irritation, and sometimes partial or full hearing loss. An earmuff or earplug is used on board ship, which dampens to noise to a bearable decibel value. 7. Safety harness. Routine ship operation include maintenance and painting of high and elevated surface which require crew member to reach area that are not easily accessible. To avoid a fall from such heightened area, safety harness is used. Safety harness is done by the operator at one and anti-rod or a strong point on the other end. 8. Face mask. Working on insulation surface, painting or carbon cleaning involves minor hazardous particles which are harmful to human body if inhaled directly. To avoid this, face masks are provided which act as shield from hazardous particles. 9. Chemical suit. Use of chemical on board ship is very frequent and some chemicals are very dangerous when they come in direct contact with human skin. A chemical suit is worn to avoid such situation. 10. Welding shield. Welding is a very common operation on board ship for structural repair. A welder is provided with a welding shield or mask which protect the eyes from coming in direct contact with ultraviolet rays of the spark of the weld. That's all from me to complete my English Maritime mid-semester test. I'm sorry for my mistake and thank you for your nice attention. See you and goodbye and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.